know, when you worked at the parks, there was a way you had to hold your tray, and it was up above your head, and you had to learn how to balance the tray there. I had this whole tray full of desserts. This gentleman put his leg out in the aisle, and I tripped on his leg. And I went down to my knees, and I slid the whole way down the rest of that aisle with this tray over my head. Didn't drop one dessert.
We had one gal come out of the kitchen one time, and she had about 5 or 6 entrees with the warmers on them stacked, and they'd stack them sometimes 3 high. Those nice dinner plates with the warmer, they'd stack them. And she come out and come out in the dining room and stepped on an ice cube. And her feet went out from under her. She took a wobbly step and then went down, and she went right flat on her tush and never spilled a thing. This one little grandma was sitting at the table, and she says, "Boy, I'd like to see her behind tomorrow."
I had never made coffee in my whole entire life. And I went in, it was my turn for the snack bar, and I went in, and they told me I had to make coffee. And I thought, well, how do I make coffee? And so I didn't know the recipe, but I just started dumping things. I thought, well, I guess he'll tell me if it's wrong. And these cute dudes came in, and they said, "We want a cup of coffee." I said, "Sure," and I poured them a cup of coffee, and they just about died. They said, "This is Sheepherder's coffee. It is the thickest, strongest coffee we'd ever eaten." And we got such a laugh at it. I says, "Tell me how to make it." So they were the ones that taught me how to make coffee at Cedar Breaks.
One of the kitchen help one year had to clean up a mess in front of the incoming door. So he didn't want to get bonked on the head. And so he reached up and flipped the latch on that door. He's down on his knees getting that mess up, and thump, crash on the other side. Some busboy had just cleaned a table of 6 or 8 and had all that china on there and everything, and he'd come around the corner and leaned in that door and just bounced off from it, just everywhere.
There was a time in the dining room, I wanted to tell you this. Thank goodness it wasn't at my table. And she had 8 entrees on her plate, on her tray. And she was this little teeny girl. Now I could see me carrying 8, but this gal was really small, petite. And the back entree came off the top and landed on this fellow's head. And he was just covered with his dinner. Well, he was really good about it. So they got him cleaned up, and everything was going fine, and I was coming through, and this man stopped me and he said, "Miss, could I have a drink of water?" And I looked at his water glass, and it was full, and I said, "But your water's full." And he says, "Yes, but there's a potato in it."
They used to put the butter in these bowls about this big, and they were pads of butter. They'd lay them in there like bricks, with spaces around them, and then fill the center with ice to keep it solid. And you had, of course, your roll plate on there. And the busboy would bring the butter over to the table and ask each person if they'd like butter, and he'd use a little pickle fork to get it off. And he was in a hurry one night, and he looked down, and his fork was empty, and the pad of butter was sitting right in a woman's cleavage. Right there. And everything was fine until he offered to go after it.